ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां व्यासशंकरमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ओम सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। So we'll just read through 1, 2, 3 and again we look at the other meanings of the other qualities of Daivi Sampat. So this particular chapter is for the qualities of Daivikaha and Asurikaha. So Daivi Sampat and Asurika Sampat. So what are the qualities? We are starting to see. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhim Jnana Yoga Vyavastitihi Dhanam Dhamascha Yajnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyakrodastaha Tyagaha Shantirvaishanam Daya Bhutveshalo Luptvam Madhvam Harichapalam Madhvam Hi Hrivachapalam Tejashama Jutihi Shaucham Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivi Abhijadasya Bharata. So I think we saw up to Swadhyaya. We saw. You know what was the last? Tapas we saw. We saw tapas. Can you unmute?
Tapas and Arjava. We have seen up to Arjava.
Up to Arjava. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to see now Ahimsa. Okay. So Ahimsa is one of the qualities of a Daivi Sampat. So when you say Ahimsa, Himsa means any sort of hindrance. So it can be verbal, it can be by action, or it can be mental also. So any Himsa or any disturbance which we cause to any living being is called Ahimsa. Right? So Ahimsa is the absence of hurting any living being. So Himsa is the presence of hurting a living being. And it is not only human beings, limited to all the living, non-living being also. So including the trees, including the plants. In fact, it is there is one particular place in India where when they pick Tulasi, they chant Vishnu Sahasranama before you chant, before they pluck. Because the Tulasi is one of the most, what you call, revered Archana for Mahavishnu. Because you know the story, right? Tulasi is supposed to be one of the greatest bhakti. And when Krishna is confronted by Rukmini that I'm the most favored person, Krishna says, no, you are not. So he gets into an argument with Krishna and says, like, let's prove. So Krishna says, okay, you sit on one side of the Tulabharam, and she says, like, and she puts all the ornaments, etc. Then he says, now it is equal. Then she says, now I'll put only one Tulasi on the other one. So as soon as he puts one Tulasi, the whole balance actually equates, it becomes equal. So it says, like, see, just one Tulasi itself is equivalent to your own entire weight. So such is the importance of Tulasi. So here Ahimsa, when you say here, it is any when you do anything, any hurt to any animals or any living being, trees, plants, anything, is actually physical, mental, or oral. is supposed to be called ahimsa. It's called himsa. So ahimsa should be followed. It's one of the most important qualities of a sannyasi. That is why in the Chaturmasya, they don't travel. So Chaturmasam is supposed to be where in India it rains a lot and all the places are flooded. Correct. So there's a lot of flood there, and when you walk also, your feet will be covered with water. So when there is no water, you can see what is the street in the front of you, and you make sure that you don't stamp on any ant or any anything which is in the walking there. But in case of water, you do not know what is under the water, right? So accidentally also you step on something. That is why the sannyasis don't travel anywhere. They actually go to a place and stay there for 3 months, and all satsangams are done from there. After the rain season is over, when then they go. Then so one should avoid doing himsa and should follow ahimsa. Correct? This is what is said here. Then satyaha. So satyam means what? Truth. So satyam means speaking the truth always. Satyam bruyat means speak the truth. Satyam vadha, dharmam chara. Correct? So Shastram says satyam vadha, dharmam chara. So speak the truth and follow dharma. Acharati dharma. Right? So one should try to speak the truth, but one should also understand how to say the truth also. When you should say the truth and when you should avoid or when you should actually postpone saying that. So one must know the timing, one must know the significance of what it is and how it has to be communicated, correct? So one must not be fearful of telling the truth, because if you are fearful, it actually weakens your own ability. So you become vulnerable and you become exposed to somebody say, oh, you knew the truth, why didn't you say it at that time? Right? So you all along knew the truth, and why didn't you say it? Then you may have to cover up saying that if I tell the truth, you may get upset. So you must always tell the truth when the right time comes. It can be anything. Sometimes telling the truth, it actually helps you offload your responsibilities also. Otherwise, you are carrying on some load, which can be a problematic thing, correct? So being honest in a conversation is good. Okay. So this implies care in using the words. So you have to use the right words, what you're meaning, and the environment when you're saying, and to whom you are saying and how you are saying. Right. So very important that ahimsa, satyam is one of the important qualities. The other option is if you restrict your speech, that means you don't enter into conversational aspect. Then you also restrict the need for speaking the truth also. Correct? The need for speaking the truth only comes when you try to prove a point. When you don't try to prove a point, when you say, okay, that is his viewpoint, is her viewpoint, so be it. And you do not want to be in a dialogue session with the person. It becomes a habit, slowly, that habit will actually bless you also. So people who speak less, they are less hurtful and they don't get hurt also. Less number of words to be dealt with, less number of things to be thought about, right? So that's why satyam. So then akrodaha. See, akrodaha means what? Absence of anger. But in reality, Shankara here defines as the resolution of anger. That means one must understand the source of anger. Anger is present in everybody. There's not a single person who is present who is here saying that I don't have anger at all. Because anger is something part of the Prakriti. It comes inbuilt. The only thing is how do you manage anger is very important. You can never drop the anger. You can only resolve the anger. So as somebody say, I have actually removed all my anger now. I don't have any anger at all. Because anger is you don't have because you have not encountered a situation which is making you angry. But the situation comes to you, and if you become angry, how do you handle it? So that's why the Acharya says here is that akrodaha, it means what? Not having anger. That this is a literal meaning. But akrodaha here means that one must know how to resolve the anger. Right? And the anger is due to many unfulfilled desires starting from your early childhood till now. They are a culmination of many unfulfilled desires. It is not something which has just come just now. It has been building slowly. It could be many things. It could be something which you got deprived of when you were a child, when you were a young child, or when you grew up, you are deprived of this. You didn't get this, or you are not able to achieve that. Other people were successful. All these things are building pressure in you without your knowing. You somehow say it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and you continue. But then when it comes to a pressure point, when you cannot take it anymore, it actually bursts out. And you yourself do not know from where it has come. And the person to whom you are targeting the anger also is not the person responsible for it also. Sometimes you'll be, expressing anger towards your wife or your children or your husband. When the person himself says, wow, where is it coming from? What makes you say like this? Because the person doesn't know what his strength has hit him or her. It is because something which is been triggering inside your mind for a long time, right? So new situations do not serve the purpose of resolving anger, but only it consolidates, right? So situation is there all the time, right? One has to manage the situation, how to deal with this, how to manage this. So anger management is actually not a course. There's a separate course called anger management, where ultimately what they tell you that the source of anger is your desire, your fantasy. I mean, first of all, whenever you have any anger, the foremost thing, first thing which comes to your, which you should look at is there is an inbuilt fantasy, there's an inbuilt desire to fulfill that particular what you want. And it has come from the fantasy. That means you just fantasize that, oh, I think if I had that, it would be good. So if you just leave it at that, then it is okay. It will not bother you. But the moment you have fantasy and then you start to think about it, the more you think about it, the more you dwell upon it, the fantasy becomes a desire, a very strong desire, unshakable desire. Then you start scheming how to do things, how to get the thing achieved. Whether I should do this, whether I should do that. Then you start to plan holidays or excuses or save money or something or the other is being planned. So there's actually a structured method, unstructured method. You have drafted a course to get that item or get that particular desire fulfilled. Now, due to some reason or something, if your desire gets fulfilled, you are happy. And you continue to have more desires, because once you are successful, you want to do it the same thing again and again. First time successful, second time not successful. You get disappointed, you get dejected. Then you start questioning how the first time it worked and why it's not working here. So this is the reason for the anger to step in. So anger does not come just like that. It's actually a building up process for small things also. Like, if you have ordered, say if you're traveling, now you're not traveling anywhere, but if you're traveling to India or some other place, and you have booked a special meal because you're vegetarian and you have a special meal, and you're done, you ticked every box, you're called airline, you're in your profile, in your frequent flyer profile, it is all ticked that you're a vegan, you're a vegetarian, everything is written there. And then when you come into the aircraft, everybody is served food, and then the aircraft comes and says, here is your food. And then you say it is, meat, chicken, fish, whatever it is there. Immediately, what do you say? This is not my food. Why did you give me? I ordered special food. Where is my food? The airhostess says, sorry, sir, we don't have any request. No, how can you make a mistake like this? I ordered this. It is in the profile. She says politely, sorry, sir, I don't have it. Then he says, no, call your captain. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to the manager. So this is how slowly it starts bleeding. See, small things like food also, because we expect certain things to be done in a particular manner. If it doesn't happen, then you get upset and you start expressing your anger on somebody who may not be. The air hostess is a person who is just serving from the list of menu which has been given to her. Somebody is actually generating a menu in the cafeteria there, somewhere there, the kitchen, flight kitchen, and she gets a menu from somebody, and she is doing list and she's serving. We don't have it. The person who did the booking will be different. The person who prepared the flight is different. Who is loading the food into the container is different. The person prepared is also different. So all are different. But how do? You focus anger on that person who is in front of you, correct? With understanding that could have been anything. So this is called understanding. So this happens to all of us. It's not that only because there's a particular expectation, it has to be done like this. And if it doesn't happen, then you get angry, right? So we can change. See, cognitively we can change, because anger, like every other emotion, is a passing thought. It is not going to be forever. A person can never be angry for a long time. He can be angry for some days. Example, if you have had a tough argument with your husband or wife, I says, let us not speak for 2 days. I'm not going to speak to you anymore. Let us not talk. One day goes, second day goes, third day, anger stops. Again, the person says, oh, I think we have to do this. We have to go here. So you are also hesitant to speak because you think you don't want to speak, or you want to talk conversation. Correct. This is how. So anger can never be permanent, because it is a passing phase. Correct. So by understanding the anger process method, you can neutralize it or you can reduce it. You cannot remove completely, because there will be always some part of it will be there, but you can manage it better. Right? So first of all, you must isolate the conclusion. That means the more you recognize the source of the problem, when you analyze what could have gone wrong, what made me, and if you're able to trace it back to the source of what the anger is, then you would have a better idea than you just live with the idea that I'm just angry because it has not happened to me. It has to happen. This is the way it should be. If it doesn't happen this way, I'm not going to do anything about it. On the contrary, one must analyze, right, as to what could have gone wrong, how it has not happened for so many months and years, few days, and suddenly why it is happening. So there is a sequence of events. There's an activity there. So one has to do root cause analysis. It's called root cause analysis. Right. So this is called releasing or neutralizing the anger step by step. And this comes by having a calm mind, by analyzing the source of the anger itself and then resolving it there itself. So anger management is not something, a course. It is just you can do it yourself, provided you have a calm mind, or you should just be steady. understand that anger is something cannot be removed, it can be resolved in jnana, by knowledge. Right? Then tyagaha. So tyagam, when you say, is renunciation. So tyagam means karma phala tyagha. So karma means action, phalam means result of the karma, and the tyagam means the renunciation of the results coming from the action. That means it does not say that you must not expect results. What it says is here, I'm doing an action, the results are going to be there, but irrespective of what it comes, I am not going to change my position, I'm not going to be affected by it. If the results come positive, I do not jump up and down, nor I write in Facebook, nor I go to Instagram, nor I go to TikTok or whatever applications are there, WhatsApp, and you post a photograph, you post all over the place there. And if you don't get what you want, you silently quit, you do not talk to anybody. This is not the method. Right? So that is called, and in Tyagam, they say, only with renunciation one will be able to achieve jnana. Right? That's why in the in Purna Kumbham, you know Purna Kumbham, what is Purna Kumbham? So Purna Kumbham is when any sadhu comes, or any Mahatma comes, or sannyasi comes to your house, one is supposed to offer Purna Kumbham. That is, you have kalasam with mango leaves, coconut, water inside it, with the plate there with rice, and then when they come into the house, you chant the Purnakam mantra, and then you invite them. It is not that you are chanting the mantra to remember to tell them what it means. It means what you have become. You are that jnani who has become famous by tyagam. Right? That's why na karmana, na prajaya, dhane, na tyage, naike, amrtatva manushuhu. Right? So na karmana, na prajaya, dhanena means what? Neither by karma, neither by praja, by progeny, nor by dhanaha, means by wealth. You have achieved this immortality. You achieved this immortality, this amrtatvam, by tyage naike. So only by tyagam, only by renunciation of all these things, you achieve this immortality or this amrtatvam. Right? So that is why Tyaga means the absence of ownership and attachment. So Tyaga means absence of ownership and attachment. This is also equal to Vairagyam or dispassion, born of maturity. So Tyagam means what? You do not get attached to anything. Even it may be your son, it may be a daughter, it may be all anything. See, nobody has said, how can I leave these people? I am connected to them for lifetime. But what it says here, you must not have ownership or attachment to any of these things. You have a duty to do, but you stay with the duties and you do not get overly attached. This is called tyagam. This is called dispassion, vairagyam. Right? Then shantihi. So shanti means a resolution of the mind or antakarana. So shanti is possible only when you have a steady mind. That means you must have developed a process of understanding the fallacies of all these limited objects. Artha, kama, dharma, and moksham is your priority. You have understood what is Purushartha Nishchaya. Right? So Purusha Artha means what? The reason for existence of this life is moksha, is to be free. And I want to discover that the fearlessness or the freedom from all this bandha, attachment, etc. So this is the purpose of it. And you're performing all the activities, the karma, etc., following the karma yoga philosophy. That means you have got Ishwarapana Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi, Samatva Buddhi, Swadhyaya Buddhi, and Sudharma Buddhi. So all these things you're following and you're adopting those things. So when you do that, you're also working on your anger. You're following the value ahimsa, arjavam, satyam. Right? All of these things are there, and you are working on all of them simultaneously. Not that I'll work on one, I will complete this, then go next one. No, you have to work on all of them simultaneously together, because life situation can be different. It can present in any form. Today you may have to speak truth. Tomorrow you may have to deal with ahimsa. Some other day you'll have to speak, you'll have to do something else. Right? You'll have a situation of anger and you may have to deal with anger. So all the situations come and go. They can come in either individually, collectively, or they can be present in the same time also. Right? So how do you deal with this? So this is dealt by the practice of upasana, the meditation, or by repeated understanding of the Shastram for Antakarana Shuddhi. So you do prayer, you do japam, you do chanting, you do meditation, you do your Nitya Karma, and you follow all these things, study Shastram, what Dharma, etc. Follow Dharma. Right? Have trust in the Bhagavan, do all these things. Once then develop Sattvic attitude. All of them to do it automatically will give you Shanti. Shanti means the satisfaction of the mind. The mind will be a little bit calm. An agitated mind can never bring you Shanti. Agitation means there is a lot of restlessness. So you cannot sit for some time. You want to get up, you want to do something else. All these things are restlessness. Right? So understanding that you are Satchitananda and working on all these aspects together simultaneously is called Shanti. So Shanti is the Ishvara, Jiva Ishvara, Buddhi Bheda should not be there. Or resolving the Jiva Ishvara Bhedaha. The differences between Jiva and Ishvara is being resolved. Correct? So this is what will give you ultimately Shanti. Then, so there are different things you can do. One can do pranayamam, one can do shirasasanam, one can do yoga, one can do meditation, one can chant, one can teach, one can be engaged in service, like Gopalji goes to temple and does something. So you can do so many things. For what? For Shanti, for occupying your mind constructively and doing things which you want to do, and avoiding those activities which you think will take you away from the peace path. So this has to be understood and one follows this. By following systematically, regularly for lengthy period of time, one will actually be, mind will be resolved. Mind will be very slow. Sometimes to get a response from you also will take a lot of time. Somebody will come and talk to you, says, okay. What okay? No, I said okay. It means what? You're not actually in a position to respond. You do not want to say anything because you do not have a value. You do not see a value or a point in saying anything to the person. Somebody says, okay, how's the movie? Yeah, it's good. Okay, very good. So what are you studying? I'm studying Shastra. Oh, okay, very good, very good. So you're not willing to enter the conversation because you're not interested, number one. The moment you start having conversation, detailed conversation, then it can take different path and you'll be involved. Right? So you can choose where to discuss, what to discuss, how to discuss, with whom to discuss, and then you just be quiet. So this is also another method. So all these things are to be followed. And Shanti is one of the important qualities, very important. It is quiet. A quiet mind can achieve a lot of things. Sometimes a quiet mind means what? Scheming also is a quiet mind. So, so if your thoughts is not clear, then the mind starts to scheme. That is what talked about here. Shanti here talks about the quiet mind, because the mind is really quietened down and you do not have anything more to add to the topic or to the Vishaya. Correct? Then Apaishunaha. Apaishuna means what? Looking for commissions and omissions in somebody's thoughts. So making sure that everybody knows how you are useless and really, putting the person down is called Paishunam. So Paishunam means commenting upon somebody's limitations, commenting upon, bringing about, or pointing out that you are like this, or commissions and omissions, you can say, in the thinking or behavior of other people. So in the thinking or behavior of other people is called Paishunam. See, some people will say, see, according to me, this person should not be here. And the person to whom you are commenting is general. You are not saying to anybody. But the person who is actually receiving there knows that probably this is for me, because already the person is actually having a complex that he or she is not performing well, or he or she is not doing well. There is some problems there. And if you make it worse, saying that, oh, you should not have me here also. I don't know who selected you. How did you land up here? There are some people who are here for no purpose. I'll tell you an example. This is how I say. See, there are some people here, they are living there just for like that. Why they are living, I don't know. What are they doing? I don't know. But they are here. And you are talking to somebody in general. But you know whom you are talking. You yourself know whom you are addressing. And the person also thinks that, oh, he is addressing to me. Correct? This is called Paishuna. So, one must avoid this. So, one must avoid all this kind of behavior and qualities. It's called gossiping. So, gossiping also comes under Paishuna. So, gossiping means just chit-chatting, just having a view. And he will come and tell you also, see, sir, I didn't mean to, I always think I'm doing good for the people by saying this. But some people take negatively. Some people take, I don't want anybody to feel very bad, because it's my nature to speak like this, and I don't feel anything harm inside. I just speak my mind. This is not speaking your mind. This is understanding the sensitivity of the matter, understanding what the person is going through, or what if the same comment was passed against you, would you be in a position to receive it? If the person who had an opinion about you and he had told that to somebody else, and you happen to be on the receiving side of it, would you be in a position to accept it without any problem? No. If you think, yes, you criticize me, you say I'm useless, I don't belong here, I'm happy to take with a smile, then it is okay. But no, we are not like that. We want always to be praised. Nobody should criticize us. If you criticize us, or if somebody tells negatively about it, we feel very bad about it. Same thing should be applied here. One must put yourself in other person's shoes and think, if I say this, will it be good for? You can see it in different manner also. See, you can see the same thing in different manner, politely. See, if you do like this, it will be better. Right? So maybe we should do this better. Instead of saying that, oh, you are not doing this correctly, you're useless, all these things. I'm telling because all these things I've experienced in my life, I'm experiencing daily also. So when I go to all the cricket match, etc., all these things I've learned in the hard way. So being a coach or a manager or an official is different from because people come and talk so many things. They will all have their own view. See, sir, this is my view. This is what we should do. These are all, nobody knows how to do this. All of them, their case, come and give an opinion. But the question is like, how do you take it? You can pick an argument with them, you can fight with them. But they all are saying their view. But they also criticize. They make it a point to put down somebody. So this is all one should avoid. We do it unintentionally, sometimes we do it intentionally also. So with avoiding this intentionally, also unintentionally should be the practice. Right? It's called apaishunam, or not looking for any mistakes in somebody's thoughts. There are some people who will always be judging. You can also be a student judging the guru also. There are people also in this. They will always be judging what the guru is saying, what the teacher is saying. Is he making mistakes? Is he, avoiding things? What must be, all these things, judging, committing, and those kind of a thing should be avoided, because it is not going to give you any value. You must take what is relevant for you and satyam vada dharmam chara. Develop all the qualities, arjam, etc. It's called apaishunam. Then daya. So what is daya? Daya is compassion. Right? So compassion to somebody who is suffering in any pain or pain. So daya does not mean that you only show daya to somebody whom you like. Right? So we always say compassion to somebody whom we like. If we don't like somebody, we don't have a compassion for that person. We tolerate, but we do not have compassion. See, compassion means having a view which is not limited to person, having a view not limited to a particular gender or a type or any object. It is compassion for anything. Anybody going through a problem, you feel that you feel sorry for the person, or you feel really speaking compassionate, right? So whether it's a tree or a creeper or sympathy, so compassion is called sympathy also. I feel empathize toward the person. Right? Very important this is an important quality for a mumukshu, is to have compassion. That means a person may have, one person may have, or people will have different types of problems. And the person adopts an attitude of compassion towards different people, solving different types of problems. So compassion also means counseling also. See, counseling also goes with compassion, correct? See, in the olden days, counseling was not the job of the guru. Now the guru's job is counseling also, because people come to the person for various things. Problem in life, problem in personal things. Some people also talk about jadagam. Some people talk about astrology. Something they talk, a lot of things they talk about. So having a compassionate view, understanding the situation and dealing with the person, or directing the person to somebody who is more helpful, is also sympathy. Right? So very important quality for a student, right? And expression of love. So daya is a compassion, and compassion always brings out expression of love, which is uniform. It is not based on any particular criteria. Right? Then aloluptvam. Aloluptvam means absence of longing for desirable objects. That means there is an object in front of you which you like the most. Supposing, there is an object or something which you like the most, you love it, and it is right in front of you. What do? See, I just love this, and I'm going to go for it. So here, what it says here is, even though the object is right in front of you, you must not be affected or pulled towards the object just because you like it. I know I like it, but at the same time, I'm not really going to be, stretching too far, going that far enough to get it. See, some, an example I can give you is, some Rajinikanth movies there. There are some people here. So, Talaivar Padam. It's actually called Talaivar Padam. So, Talaivar Padam means like there's a discussion there. There's a group there. There's a group called Talaivar Padam group. So, whenever there's a new movie coming there, there's a lot of activity going on there. Flurry of activities. A lot of messages will come. I'm not part of the group. I'm just heard about it. Because sometimes people care. Do you want to come? He says, no, I don't want to come. But first day, first show. So there'll be a flurry of activities, and even though the person has seen that picture many times or the actor out there, still you want to go for it and you are standing right in the front there. Because you just cannot resist that particular thing. You are hooked by it and I just can't, I love it. So this is called alolutvam, or getting free from desired object, even the object is present in front of you. What will you do? Would you, because you already have that object, you already seen that. Would you like to go for it again? Would you like to fall head over in love, heal for that? Or would you just like to have balance? Right? This is called self-control. So alolutvam means having self-control. So this requires a particular disposition of the mind. So you do not go just crazy over it, and later on, of course it's a desire only. Right? So this is also another quality required. Alolutvam is absence of longing in the presence of desirable sense objects. So when you go to a department store, you exactly go and buy what you want. But when you go to department store, what do? You take a big trolley. First of all, you take a basket. Then you'll say, no, I think we'll take a trolley. So you take a trolley and then you go around. I think this looks good. Let's buy this. This looks good. So you take two, you take three. So your eyes are wandering around everywhere, and you like something, you take many of them. So how do you restrict yourself? Take only what you want, and you do not get affected by even though the item is there. It's very important quality. Very difficult to develop this quality also, because it is something which we love, and we do not want to let go of an opportunity for something which we love. Shastram says that you must actually be neutral. You must be free from also this kind of desire, because this desire can actually prompt you to do the same thing again. Correct? See, it becomes habit. So when you know that a particular item is available in the store or in the place on a particular day or a particular time, you always go for it. Is it right? Whether you like it or not, you will take the car, you'll go there. And you'll park, you'll exactly look for the same place. It is not there, you get angry. Because the person would have moved a smooth item there. Then what do? Oh, let me go to another store. You go another store, you look for it, not finding. Then you go and search on Google, finding this place there, go there. This is how fantasy, which is there, a desire gets developed, and the desired object which is there, if it is not available to you, get angry. So he says, alolutvam means actually allal padradum. Alolutvam means allal padradum. Lolo nalayardam. Yeah, alolutvam. That's all I can say. So alolutvam is a Sanskrit word, but I can say lolo nalayardam also can say. That means you just go and search for the item every place, everywhere, and then you look for it. So if it's available there, how do you deal with it? You want to take one or you want to take 5 of them? So like children, etc., when you go to the chip shop, right? We tell them how much you want. Let me take 3. But they will not eat 3, they will eat only 1. And that 1 also will not be, they will not eat it. But and the, the moment they look at it, they feel that they have to take 3. Then eventually it will be rotting somewhere there. Nobody will touch it for 2, 3 weeks. They will forget also. So this is how the children's mentality is there, and we must not be governed by this mentality. That's what it says. Aloluptam, very important quality. Then Mardavaha. So Mardavam means absence of cruelty. So Mardavam comes from the root word Mridhu. So Mridhu means what? Soft. So Mridhu means soft. The root or dhatu for that word is Mridhu. From that word Mardavam comes in existence. So Mardavam is the adjective for the word Mridhu. So absence of cruelty. Right? So if you look at the flower petal is Mridhu. Right? So anything which is cruel, you avoid. Right? People should be able to talk to you freely, adapt to you freely. It's called important. So it is like, somebody comes, somebody comes to your house for, eating food, something. Just say, you can be polite to them. If you don't want to feed them, you can just say, you can do different things. You can just say like, we just finished dinner. Or would you like to eat, have some water, something to drink? Whereas, if you insult them and say like, see, I don't know how much food you can eat. People can eat only this much amount of food. I don't know how people can eat so much amount of food. See, we have a habit of only eating only a little bit of rice. So they tell you this. But the person you're actually sitting in front of you is eating that, and you tell in front of him, this is what you like to eat. So indirectly, what you're actually not speaking soft, you're actually cruel to the person, because you are indirectly pointing to the person that you eat a lot. It is like, putting a knife in the butter. So this is also another word you should avoid, or another activity you should avoid. See, all the qualities which are given here, they are called Daivikaha. Mean they are sattvic qualities which a person should develop. It is not that I don't have it, so I will not do this. No, you don't have it. All of us don't have it. Some we have it, some we don't have it. Some of them will have more of them, some will have less of them. So one has to keep working on it. Right? And how do you know how to work on it? Because you keep doing the same thing, listen to this again and again, make a list of it, and then try to work towards an objective. It's called Mridhu or Mardavam. Then next one is called, we completed 1, 2, 3. So we are in verse number 2. So Daya Bhuteshva Alolupvam Mardum Hrihi Achapalam. So next one is called Hrihi. So Hri means it's a particular kind of shyness. That is, somebody praises you. You feel a little bit, awkward, or you just feel shy. Some people have this habit. See, I'm not like this. You're very polite and you say, no, I'm not doing anything. It's okay. So you feel like a little bit shy. Oh yeah, I'm actually done this. Somebody tells you like, oh, you are a great person. Yes, indeed a great person. I've worked very hard for this. You know how much time I spent on this one? Then you start explaining the whole Ramayana, etc. The person made us just a comment to you to make you feel happy, comfortable, and you own the document. You own the whole argument, you explain, you justify. The person is end up on sometimes say, why did I say to the person that you are great? He will start repenting. So Hri is opposite of that. What we say is, oh, It's nothing. It's all, Bhagavan's grace. I'm just doing what is supposed to be done. I'm really not. So you are very polite. You're just, shying away from all this glamour and glories, etc., and not falling into flattering words, right? So it's called modesty and humility. So another word for Hri is called modesty, humility, or being shy from public eye. Shy from public eye or extolling your own glories. Right? Dambaha, another word. Right? Dambaha. Dambatam. Right? Then achapalaha. Achapalam means absence of activity of speech, absence of activity of speech, or using speech, using hands or legs, etc., without any purpose. Right? So it means living a purposeful life. You must not speak when there's no requirement. Some people have a habit of just talking. They are non-stop. You cannot avoid them. They get bored. So he says, Sarada Pesumo Saram. What will you talk to them? Because you do not have anything to talk to them, but they have a lot of things to talk to them. So, so speaking to somebody or speaking to without any purpose, doing action or doing with action with your legs, arms, or anything, or any part of the body, mental also, is called achapalam. So leading a purposeful, meaningful life is called achapalam. It is an expression of mental calmness. So this is also one of the qualities, right? Very important qualities. It is a natural to satvikam mind. See, a person of satvikam will develop this quality because a satvikam person is always involved in some Bhagavan Smaranai, some reading, some writing, some chanting, or Shravanam, Maranam, Nidhyasanam, or making notes, revisiting what you studied. So this is the person's life there, and the person's mind is always occupied with this kind of a meaningful life. So if somebody comes and talks to him about what is happening with Donald Trump, what happened. So what's happening there? So you would not be interested because you're not really following that particular. Sometimes people say, oh, you should be, politically be active. You must be knowing the society, what's happening there. It depends upon a person's perspective. If somebody is fighting something there are people are there. There are politicians are there. There are people are there. They are all doing their job. By your contribution, what are you going to do about it? By talking about something, are you going to influence any decision? No. It is only you are just talking because you like to talk about it. So understanding is important, priority, and not interfering or not taking up activities which is not relevant to your intellectual growth. You should avoid. That's what it says here. So achapalam. Right. Then tejas. So tejas means not the color of the skin, nor the brightness of your face. Tejas indicates the sharpness of your mind, the capacity to face challenges, difficulties with self-confidence and ease is called tejas. So tejas means the brilliance or the radiance which is caused by the person managing one's own affairs efficiently, with confidence and without any confrontation. Then kshama, composure. Kshama means composure, means even when things are happening to you in a very bad manner, you are still composed. You do not react to situations just because you want to react. Neither you cry, neither you dance with up and joy, neither you brood. All of these qualities are managed with a person by having composure. You do not get affected by any situation. You may get affected by situation, but you try to manage it and you just lead a normal life. But you do not reveal that dissatisfaction or sorrow or anger on another person. It is something you deal with it, you deal with it internally. So it's managing one person's expectation, correct? So akrodham, all these are aspects of Shama. See, composure comes out of managing akrodham. That is krodha, right? Dhamma, Shama, Ahimsa, Arjavam, Satyam. All these qualities are important for a person. Then only Kshama is composure is possible. How can you be composed when you have got so many other things are there? So composure is very important when these things also work together. Right? Then Dhritihi. So Dhriti means firmness or fortitude, firmness or dridham. So dridham means firm understanding of what is the truth, firm understanding of Satyam, Satchit Anandaha, and just managing or dealing with it. So Dhriti means what? Dridam means very firm commitment to Shastra. So a person may have, ongoing problems. See, some people have arthritis. Right? It is an ongoing problem. Migraine. Some people have it. Some people it comes regularly. Every third day the migraine is there. Or you got leg problem, something you cannot do. So these are all part of the body. Right? So you should know how to live with it and manage it. What do? You complain. You always you say yourself, Bhagavan, why Bhagavan has given life like this? Why I'm suffering like this? So you criticize yourself, you criticize the Bhagavan, you feel, you make complaint. Somebody comes and helps you also, you feel that, oh, they are actually showing sympathy to me. I must be, no, I can walk. You can't walk. The person says, no, you are making me very feel uncomfortable. There was a time when I was walking, now I'm not able to walk. See, people are offering me. This is also all fortitude. Fortitude means having a steady understanding. Dridam means having firm understanding in Shastra, having understanding of values, and steadfast to it. Very important quality also. Then, Shaucham. Shaucham means cleanliness. Shaucham means cleanliness. So both types of inner and outer. Bahya Shaucham, Antara Shaucham. One has to be clean from inside and outside. Why? Because the body has to be kept clean because the body emits different types of odors. And you are living among a community of people and it has to be kept clean. The environment has to be kept clean. You're living in the center universe. So you have to have maintained cleanliness for not only for you, for other people also. Number one. So Bahya Shaucham is very important. That is taking bath, having, cleanliness is important. Having, clean clothes, not the same dirty clothes again and again. All is important. Right? Antara Shaucham means what? Having clean mind, having clean thoughts. So speech by action, by mind. All these things should be clean. It's called Antara Shaucham. Okay? So it's a mental disposition, you can say. And this is also very important quality. So Shaucham in both internal and external has to be important. Correct. Then Adroha. Adroham means what? Cheating. So Droham means or hurting somebody. So Adroham means do not cheat somebody, do not hurt somebody by doing willful things. One must not do anything which is hurtful to somebody or cheat somebody. Right? Then, so Tejaha, Shama, Dhrutihi Shaucham Adroho Na Nati Manitaha. So Nati Manita means what? Amanitaha. So Atimanita means, see, Manam means what? Respect, or respect, correct? Manam. And Atimanita means what? You demand respect. So what do? Somebody is telling something, sir, I demand respect from you, sir. Please be truthful. I demand respect. I give respect, I take respect. Is it right? You say that, right? Give respect and take respect. You're actually ordering the person. Because you say that you cannot actually, you're demanding respect from somebody when you may deserve or you may not deserve. So when you say that you're deserving respect, you're commanding somebody to give respect. That means what? You are expecting something to say something to you. And if the person doesn't give you respect, what do? You get angry with the person. Right? So Atimanita means absence of the demand for respect. Right? So when you stop demanding respect of other people, you yourself are satisfied because you do not have any particular demand for respect. See, people should respect me as a teacher. People should respect me as a sannyasi. People should respect me as a learned scholar, a doctor. I should be very famous. They should respect my stature, my bungalow, my car, my dog. All these things are all respect. Right? And if you don't get this respect, people say, oh, he's some ordinary person there. He's somebody there. Who is he to respect me? Also comes. So all these things come to you when you start demanding respect. When you don't demand respect, then you're not affected by any of these things. You just don't bother. People respect you or don't respect you, who cares? At the end of the day, you should be truthful to yourself. You should respect yourself for what you are, not because somebody should respect you for what you are. So somebody should not value your thing. They may have value or they may not have value. It's a different thing. That is their perception. But in terms of your value, you must know what is your respect, and you must respect your own self, your qualification, your knowledge, etc. You must respect yourself. Okay? Very important. So it's called Nati Manita. So Ati Manita means pretentiousness, and Na Ati Manita means having no demand for self-respect. It's called a simple person. Basically, he's a very down-to-earth person. It's called Nati Manita. So all these virtues in the 3 verses, beginning from Abhaya, are the characteristics of the Devas. So why Devas? Because when human beings have them, they also become Devas. So it's called Devi Sampat. So Devas have got all these qualities. And if the human beings acquire these qualities or develop these qualities, then they also become exposed to Devi Sampat. And how do you acquire this? By Veda Pramana. By studying the Veda, by studying the Shastram, the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and other granthas which are part of our culture. Because this is only a simple thing, but there are a lot of values given in other Upanishads, etc. So values itself is our life. Our life should be governed by values. Right? So very important is this. That is why it says here that a person who discovers this Devi Sampat, he will become equivalent to status of Devata. He will be free, completely free. Right? So we have seen this first 3 verses, which comprise of all the qualities. Hope this is clear to you. I'm sure it has got, we have all this, we are dealing with this. There's not a single of them which we say that we are not dealing with this. Every day, right from the beginning when you're a child till now, we have been dealing with this in some way or the other. And we are continuing to deal with this. So if you are aware about it, we'll be able to deal with it better. That's all it is. Right? See, we are not teaching something new. We are only making it aware. The Gita, what is tells you? Be aware that these are the values. If you do not know what they are, understand what they are, and you try to develop these qualities. So by developing these qualities, you'll be a better person. So the next class, in the next week, we are going to see what is Asuri Sampat. That is opposite of Devi Sampat. So what are the qualities which one must avoid? So we have seen what qualities should develop. Now we are going to see what qualities one must avoid so that we do not go down the path of Asuras. Any question from anyone in the class? All clear? Shikanji from New Zealand, all clear? Yamaji has thumbs up. Is there? All good. Okay, so we'll see you next class. We'll look at what is Asuri Sampat from verse number 4 onwards. We will see. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namaste. Shubhradri to all of you. Hari Om.